Let's save the rest for after dinner.
Disney just dropped a brand new extended trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu, and I need to talk about what this really means for Star Wars. Because this isn't just another marketing push, this feels like a turning point. Before we begin, would you please support me? Subscribing is free and very important to me. Please subscribe for better analysis and more videos. For the first time since 2019, Star Wars is returning to theaters in a major way. The small screen experiment that reshaped the franchise with The Mandalorian is now stepping onto the biggest stage possible, and whether this film succeeds or fails could genuinely determine the cinematic future of the galaxy far, far away. And after watching this extended trailer multiple times, I'm convinced there's a lot more happening here than people realize. Let's start with the obvious. Din Djarin and Grogu are no longer just drifting through side quests. The trailer makes it clear they're now operating as independent contractors for the New Republic. The phrase used is essentially freelance rangers, and that one detail alone shifts the scale of this story. They're not hiding anymore. They're not just surviving. They're actively trying to prevent another galactic war. As Imperial Remnant forces continue to strengthen across the galaxy, Din and Grogu are being pulled into something bigger, something organized, something dangerous. And this is where the trailer quietly raises the stakes. We see Din fighting new enemies across multiple worlds. The action looks more cinematic than anything we saw in Season 3. The scale feels larger. The environments are wider. This isn't a Disney Plus episode stretched thin. This is clearly built for IMAX screens. But here's where things get really interesting. The trailer appears to show a character who looks unmistakably like Embo from Star Wars: The Clone Wars. For longtime fans of the animated series, that's a massive deal. Embo, the Kyuzo bounty hunter introduced in Season 2 of The Clone Wars, was always one of those characters who felt underused but incredibly cool. Silent, lethal, mysterious. He worked frequently for the Hutts, and his distinctive hat shield silhouette became iconic. Now, in this trailer, we see a Kyuzo bounty hunter whose design and movement style are almost identical. It's subtle, but it's there. If that is Embo, this changes the dynamic of the film completely. Because Embo isn't just muscle, he's strategic. And if he's working for the Hutts again, that means organized crime may be deeply involved in whatever larger conflict Din and Grogu are stepping into. And speaking of Hutts, Jeremy Allen White has been confirmed to voice Rotta the Hutt. Now this is where casual fans might not immediately understand the significance. Rotta isn't just another slug-like crime lord. He's Jabba the Hutt's son. First introduced as a baby in the 2008 The Clone Wars animated film, Rotta has existed mostly in the background of Star Wars lore. But bringing him back now? That suggests something. Where Hutts are concerned, there's always power struggle, always instability, always chaos. And chaos is exactly what the Imperial Remnant thrives in. So now I'm looking at this film not just as a bounty hunter adventure, but as a collision point between crime syndicates, fractured Imperial forces, and a fragile New Republic trying to hold everything together. And that's before we even get to Garazeb Orrelios. Fans of Star Wars Rebels immediately recognized him in the trailer. Seeing Zeb in live action again is more than fan service. He bridges timelines. He connects the animated storytelling era with the live-action Mandoverse. And that bridge matters even more when you consider what happened in Asuka. Grand Admiral Thrawn has returned to the main galaxy. If the Imperial Remnant is growing stronger, and Thrawn is positioning himself strategically behind the scenes, then the Mandalorian and Grogu might be setting up something much bigger than a standalone adventure. Now, the trailer doesn't show Thrawn directly, but you can feel his shadow. And then there's Sigourney Weaver's New Republic colonel. Her presence suggests internal political tension. The New Republic isn't the clean, stable government people hoped it would be. It's stretched thin, it's reactive, and it may not even fully understand the threat it's facing. Din Djarin stepping into that world as a freelance enforcer creates friction, because Din doesn't operate by bureaucracy, he operates by code. And that code has already been tested. Let's talk about Grogu for a second. Season 3 ended with Din officially adopting Grogu. They established a base on Nevarro, but more importantly, Grogu connected with the Mythosaur on Mandalore. That moment cannot be ignored. The mythosaur is a symbol of Mandalorian legend. Thought extinct. Thought myth. If Grogu has a connection to it, that means his identity is shifting again. He's no longer just Force sensitive. He's no longer just a foundling. He might represent the future of Mandalore. And if that's the direction this film leans into, then we're looking at a story about legacy. Legacy of the Jedi. Legacy of Mandalore. Legacy of the Empire, all colliding at once. Some viewers have expressed skepticism about moving The Mandalorian from television to theaters. And that's fair. Not every streaming success translates to box office dominance. But Jon Favreau addressed that directly. He said the mission of this film is to create something that fills the screen, something that makes people leave their homes and go back to theaters. That's a bold statement, because Star Wars has struggled with theatrical identity since the rise of Skywalker. The Mandalorian and Grogu has to prove that this universe still works at blockbuster scale, and judging by this extended trailer, Disney is betting heavily on it. Cinematically, everything looks bigger. The action choreography feels more grounded and less episodic. The lighting is more dramatic. The environments feel lived in. This doesn't look like television. It looks like Star Wars reclaiming spectacle. But here's the real question. Is this a contained adventure, or the first domino in a larger cinematic reboot of the Mandoverse? Because let's not forget, multiple Star Wars films are in development. Yet right now, beyond this movie, the only confirmed theatrical project is Star Wars Starfighter, directed by Sean Levy and starring Ryan Gosling, set in an unexplored era of the timeline. That means The Mandalorian and Grogu carries enormous weight. If it works, the future of Star Wars in theaters opens up again. If it doesn't, the franchise may retreat back to streaming dominance. And that's why this trailer feels different. It isn't just showing cool action, it's making a statement. Din Djarin and Grogu are stepping onto the biggest stage in the galaxy. Imperial forces are reorganizing. Crime syndicates are re-emerging. Animated legends are crossing into live action. And somewhere out there, Thrawn is calculating. The Mandalorian and Grogu hits theaters exclusively on May 22, 2026. The question isn't just whether it will be good. The question is whether it will redefine what Star Wars looks like on the big screen moving forward. And I want to know what you think. Did you catch the Embo connection? Do you think Rotta's return signals a larger Hutt storyline? And is this film the beginning of a new cinematic era, or a final test? We're going to keep breaking this down as more footage drops. Until then, stay sharp. This is where the future of the galaxy gets decided. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments. This is where these kinds of films come to life. Until the next story, stay curious, be critical, keep your eyes on the screen, and remember, every film you haven't seen is a new film.